In this video, we are going to cover the steps in creating your superhero logo. So to start out with, we are going to create a new document. So File, New, here in Illustrator. The size of this document is going to be 4 inches in both width and height. So 4 by 4. Under the advanced options, make sure you check that and make sure it's RGB for the color mode. And there is our new document. So as you can see in my previous one, that's essentially what we're going to create. So we will start out by making that outer triangle. We will use the polygon tool, click once, somewhere, anywhere. The radius that we want will be 2 inches. The number of sides will be 3. So there is my triangle. I'll zoom out just a little bit by hitting Control and the minus sign on my keyboard. And I'll pan around by pressing and holding the space bar and clicking and dragging. So there's my triangle, but it's the wrong way. So I'm going to press and hold the Shift key, and I will rotate this triangle so that the point is facing down. A point. I guess there are 3 points on there. I want this triangle to have no fill but a stroke color. I'm going to click on my fill color and hit the little none button. So now I have no fill on my triangle. Make sure that it's selected. You can see mine selected. It has that blue outline around it. For the stroke color, I can just double click on my stroke swatch and choose a color, any color. I can click around and find one that I like. Sure, pink sounds good. The stroke weight, I want you to pull up to 10 points. So 10 points for the stroke weight. Again, no fill color, and it should look just like that. Now I'm going to type in my initials. So my initials are KH. I will use my type tool, regular type tool. And what I would probably recommend is just click once, somewhere, anywhere, type in your initials, first name, last name. It works probably easiest if you use 2 initials. If you have more initials and you wanted to use 3, you could do that. It would just get a little bit crowded inside your triangle. But the font that I want you to choose is Arial Black. And now I'm going to switch to my black arrow, my selection tool. I will move those initials into position somewhere around there. I'll tweak that in just a minute. And then I am going to bump the size up to about 110, right around there. And now I will click and drag that over, and I'm going to place it in about that location. If you go all the way up to the top, then your letters only grow from the bottom down, and it looks a little bit lopsided. So I like to pull it down just a little bit so that I have a little bit of room to expand those letters upward. For your text, you can have this be any color you want. So mine is set up to black, but that's kind of boring, so I'll switch it to bright green. I just don't want you to have a stroke color right now, so leave that as none. If you have a stroke color in there, remember, just click on it and then choose that little none option right there. Okay, so now my next step is I need to modify this text. So in order to do that, because I am not able to modify it right now, I can move it around and do a couple other things to it, but I can't do a whole lot more than that. So I need to go to Type and Create Outlines. When I do that, notice that I have my anchor points in every sort of corner of my text. So every letter has a lot of anchor points to it, and now I can modify all these anchor points, and that's the key. So notice I just clicked in the upper left-hand corner on my K and released. So click and release, and now I can move this around. So if I click, I would drag the entire letter around, but click and release, and now I can modify each little anchor point. I am going to adjust the shape of my letters so that the edges all intersect with that outer triangle. So I'm pulling up all of the tops of my letters, and then I'll pull down the bottoms of the letters so that it intersects with that triangle. Notice, like over here, for example, where my letter is going outside of the triangle, I'm going to pull that one in. So I will continue to do that for the other parts of my letters. Okay, there it is. The majority of that inner triangle should be filled up by your letters. I want it to look about like this. So most of the triangle is filled up. There isn't a ton of white space. And make sure that all of your edges, if at all possible, overlap with this triangle. So my next step then is just to move the triangle above the text, because right now I can see sort of the jagged edges of my letters. I want to clean that up a little bit, and I will do that by moving up my triangle. So now I'm going to move it up, and now my triangle is above my letters in my layers panel. So this is my triangle, these are my letters, and now that kind of cleans up everything and makes it look a little bit more polished. If you are creating your superhero logo and you have more curved letters, My letters are pretty angular, so I have a K and an H, and there's not a lot of curves to those. But if you have an S, for example, or a P or something like that, then you're just going to have to do your best to modify that. So here I took the letters S and P, and the curves aren't perfect yet. I would still probably adjust those a little bit. But here, this gives you an idea of what you can do if you have curved letters. So you can make part of the P bigger. So instead of just pulling out like one anchor point, for example, and stretching it out so that it's super misshapen, then you can just kind of adjust the shape just a little bit and just make it work for yourself. Okay, there is your superhero logo in a nutshell. Good luck.